Min So-yeon clenched a dust cloth in her hands, trying not to look at the daughter-in-law of the house. Hong Mira always found a reason for sharp remarks. This morning had started particularly badly. The girl had accidentally brushed a Joseon dynasty vase with her elbow, and it wobbled on its pedestal. Is it really so hard to do your job without destroying the house? Mira swept her with a contemptuous glance, adjusting the pearl necklace around her neck. Honestly, I don't understand why my father-in-law keeps you here. Any other maid would do better. So-yeon lowered her head, swallowing her resentment as usual. She had been working in the Park family mansion for 5 years, and in that time she had learned to remain silent. Responding was useless, no one would hear her anyway. She was invisible, a shadow gliding through the marble corridors of this luxurious house. Mom, look what I found. The younger son of the house, 28-year-old Park Young-ho, burst into the living room, waving some papers. His suit cost more than So-yeon earned in a year. Father transferred money to some organization again. 2 million won. When will he finally stop throwing away our inheritance? Quiet, Mira hissed at him, glancing at the closed door of the master's bedroom upstairs. He might hear you. So what? Young-ho carelessly threw the papers on the table. He hasn't gotten out of bed for 3 months. The doctors say he has no more than a week left. It's time to face reality. So-yeon felt something tighten inside her. Park Jang-hoon, the master of the house, was dying. She had known this for a long time. She had seen him growing weaker every day, his once loud voice turning into a barely audible whisper. But hearing his own son discuss his death so coldly. Get out of here, Mira snapped at her. And anyway, why are you still here? Didn't I tell you to clean the windows on the 2nd floor? I finished an hour ago, So-yeon replied quietly. I'm working on the living room now. Then do it faster and don't get underfoot. The girl hurried out of the room, her cheeks burning with humiliation. She went up the stairs to the 2nd floor, where the master's bedroom was. At the door, as always, the nurse stood guard, a plump middle-aged woman with a tired face. How is he? So-yeon whispered. The nurse shook her head, bad. This morning he barely came to. Only once he asked for water and... She paused, asked about you. About me? Yes. He asked if you could come by later, when you have time. He wants to tell you something. So-yeon's heart beat faster. In 5 years of work, the master had hardly ever spoken to her, only greeted her in the mornings and thanked her for her work. He was polite, unlike the rest of the family, but distant. What could he want from her now, in the last days of his life? I'll come after lunch, she promised. The rest of the morning passed in the usual rush. So-yeon washed floors, beat carpets, and prepared lunch under the watchful eye of the fussy cook. The cook was always dissatisfied, either the vegetables were cut incorrectly, or the pots not washed thoroughly enough. The girl had learned to ignore the grumbling, she had more important thoughts. What did the master want to tell her? Maybe he intended to fire her? Or... No, that was silly. Why would a dying man worry about the fate of a simple maid? After lunch, when the family had gone about their business, So-yeon quietly knocked on the bedroom door. The nurse opened it and nodded, letting her in. The room was in semi-darkness, the heavy curtains blocked the windows, letting only thin strips of daylight through. On the huge bed, sinking into pillows, lay Park Jang-hoon. Once a powerful, imposing man with a commanding gaze, now only a shadow remained, a thin body under the blanket, sunken cheeks, hands more like bird claws. But the eyes. His eyes were still alive. Brown, attentive, they followed her every movement. So-yeon, he rasped, and she hurried closer. Thank you for coming. The nurse said you wanted to see me. The girl sat on the edge of a chair next to the bed. Do you need anything? Water? Or... No, he shook his head weakly. I wanted to talk. I don't have much time, and there are things I need to say. So-Yun nodded silently, unsure what to say. You've been working in this house for 5 years, the master continued, his breathing shallow. 5 years I've been watching you. I've seen how my family treats you. How they humiliate you every day. Sir, you don't need to. I do, he interrupted. Because it's my fault. I should have stopped it, but I was too weak. Too busy with my own affairs, my own illness. I turned a blind eye to what was happening under my roof. Tears rose in So-Yun's throat. No one had ever spoken to her like this, with genuine regret, with respect. But there's one thing, the master tried to sit up, and she hurried to help him, placing another pillow under his back. One thing I want to tell you. 3 weeks ago, when you were cleaning the library, you were singing. So-Yun froze. She remembered that day. Thinking the house was empty, she had allowed herself to relax and hummed an old song, something from her late mother's repertoire. You have. The master coughed, and the nurse hurried to give him water, an amazing voice. I stood in the corridor and listened. For the first time in many years, I felt something. Real. Something alive in this dead house. I didn't know. Forgive me if I disturbed. You didn't disturb, he smiled weakly. You gave me the last joy in my life. And I want to thank you. I want you to know. Everything will be fine. I promise. These words sounded mysterious, but So-Yun didn't dare ask what he meant. The master closed his eyes, his breathing became steadier, he had fallen asleep. The girl quietly left the room, carrying with her a strange mix of anxiety and hope. She didn't know it was their last conversation. The next morning, Park Jang-hoon passed away in his sleep. The funeral was conducted with appropriate grandeur. Relatives, business partners, acquaintances, all dressed in black, all with solemn faces, gathered at the mansion. So-Yun stayed in the shadows, helping set the memorial tables, serving tea to the guests. No one paid attention to her. For all these people, she was part of the furnishings, no more significant than the chairs or paintings on the walls. Mira wept into a handkerchief, playing the inconsolable widow, though So-Yun knew perfectly well that the daughter-in-law could not stand her father-in-law. Young-ho walked with a grim face, but there was poorly concealed impatience in his eyes. The elder son, Park Jang-sik, flew in from America with his wife, a well-groomed blonde who frowned at everything Korean. When will they finally announce the will? She asked her husband in English, not hiding her irritation, thinking no one would understand. I have a show in New York in 3 days. I can't stay here forever. Be patient, Jang-sik grumbled. The notary said he would read the will 2 days after the funeral. 2 days dragged on painfully. The atmosphere in the house was tense, relatives tried to appear sorrowful, but So-Yun saw the greedy gleams in their eyes, heard whispers behind closed doors. Everyone was talking about the same thing, how much each would inherit. Park Jang-hoon was a billionaire. His fortune was estimated at 50 billion won, skyscrapers, factories, shares of major companies. The family was already dividing the skin of the unkilled bear, planning how to spend the inheritance. Finally, the day of the will reading arrived. The notary, an elderly man with glasses and a stern suit, arrived at exactly 2 p.m. Everyone gathered in the living room, both sons with their wives, cousins of the deceased, his nephews. Even distant relatives, whom So-Yun saw for the first time in her life, had rushed in at the smell of money. "Where is the maid?" The notary suddenly asked, looking around. "Why does she need to be here?" Mira was surprised. "This is a family matter. Mr. Park Jang-hoon specifically stated that the reading of the will must take place in the presence of all the household staff," the notary answered calmly. "Please call her." Reluctantly, Mira nodded, and a minute later So-Yun, red with embarrassment, entered the living room. She was shown a place by the wall, away from the family, as if her presence could dirty them. So, the notary opened a folder with documents. "Let's begin. I, Park Jang-hoon, being of sound mind and memory, have drawn up this will. Everyone leaned forward, afraid to miss a single word. My mansion, located in the Gangnam district, valued at 3 billion won, I bequeath. The notary paused, and the room fell into tense silence, to my beloved Persian cat, Treasure. For several seconds everyone was silent, unable to believe their ears. Then Jang-sik snorted, "Is this a joke?" "I continue," the notary said calmly. "My shares in Park Industries, valued at 20 billion won, I also bequeath to my cat Treasure." "What?" Young-ho jumped up. "Father has lost his mind." Silence. The notary shouted with unexpected authority. "I am not finished. My bank accounts, real estate in Busan and Jeju, art collection, all valued at 27 billion won, I bequeath to my Persian cat, Treasure." The room erupted into chaos. Mira burst into hysterical laughter, Jang-sik clutched his head, and his wife began shouting something in English. Relatives started talking over one another. 50 billion. To a cat? He's definitely gone mad. This is illegal. We'll contest the will. So-yeon stood by the wall, not understanding what was happening. Treasure, the snow-white Persian cat with blue eyes, had been the master's favorite. He had found her on the street many years ago, when she was still a kitten. It was So-yeon who usually took care of her, feeding her, brushing her long fur, playing with her. Treasure was the only creature in that house that showed the girl genuine affection. But to leave an entire fortune to an animal? It was madness. "Ladies and gentlemen, please, calm down." The notary raised his hand. "I haven't finished reading. There's an important addition." "What addition?" Young-ho growled. "What, did father leave his socks to the neighbor's dog?" "To manage all assets belonging to the cat Treasure," continued the notary, ignoring the sarcasm, "to control the funds, make financial decisions, and live in the mansion with the animal until its death, I appoint." He looked up and stared directly at the girl by the wall, my maid, Min So-yeon. If the previous news had shocked them, these words left everyone completely stunned. For several seconds, there was absolute silence. Every head turned toward So-yeon. She stood pressed against the wall, her face pale, lips trembling. "What? What did you say?" She whispered barely audibly. According to the will, the notary stood and approached her, holding out the documents. "From this moment you are the manager of a fortune worth 50 billion won. Formally, everything belongs to the cat, but you have full authority to handle these funds at your discretion. The only condition, you must care for Treasure until the end of her life." This can't be," So-yeon shook her head. "I can't. I don't. You." Mira suddenly screamed, lunging at the girl. "You deceived him. You lying snake, you seduced the old man." "I didn't do anything." So-yeon backed away, but Mira grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her so violently that the girl hit her back against the wall. "For 5 years you wormed your way into his trust. For 5 years you played the humble fool. And all the while you were spinning your web. Let me go." So-yeon tried to pull free, but the daughter-in-law was stronger. "Mrs. Hong, please." The notary tried to intervene, but Young-ho pushed him aside. "How much did he pay you?" the young man snarled, looming over So-yeon. "Or were you just sleeping with the old man while he was dying?" "Stop it!" the girl cried out, tears finally streaming down her face. "I didn't know anything. I swear I had no idea." "Liar!" Mira raised her hand to strike her, but the notary caught her wrist just in time. "One more move, Mrs. Hong, and I'll call the police," he said coldly. "The will is entirely legal. Mr. Park Jang-hoon was of sound mind. The medical certificate confirms it. I have a video recording of him personally signing these documents. If you attempt to contest the will or harm Miss Min, the consequences will be extremely unpleasant." The late Mr. Park anticipated everything. He took another envelope from his folder. And this, Miss Min, is for you personally. Mr. Park asked me to deliver this letter after the reading of the will. With trembling hands, So-yeon took the envelope. Her name was written on it in elegant handwriting. I'm giving you 24 hours to vacate the mansion, the notary addressed the family. From today, Miss Min is the rightful mistress of this house. Please gather your personal belongings and leave the premises. All other property remains here. We're not leaving. Mira screamed. This is our house. This is Miss Min's house, corrected the notary. And if by tomorrow evening you haven't left, I will appeal to the court. I assure you, Mr. Park made sure that any attempt to challenge this will is doomed to fail. I have enough documents to make you lose the case in 5 minutes. Jang-sik, who had been silent until then, suddenly asked quietly, and us? Did he leave us nothing? The notary opened the last page. To my sons, Park Jang-sik and Park Young-ho, I leave 1,000,000 won each. That should be enough for one-way tickets, anywhere, as long as it's far from my home. You will receive your money tomorrow, provided you vacate the mansion within the stated time. 1,000,000 won. $1,000. Out of 50 billion. Mira collapsed onto the sofa and burst into tears, this time, for real. Young-ho stood frozen, his face the color of chalk. Jang-sik turned and silently left the room, his wife scurrying after him, hissing something angrily under her breath. So-yeon stood in the middle of the chaos, clutching the envelope, unable to believe what was happening. Just yesterday, she had been no one, a powerless maid, the target of mockery and contempt. And today? Today she was richer than all of them combined. That night, So-yeon stayed in her small room on the first floor, the same one she had lived in for 5 years. A tiny space with a narrow bed, an old wardrobe, and a single window facing the yard. She hadn't dared to move into one of the luxurious bedrooms upstairs. It all seemed unreal, like a dream both terrifying and beautiful. The master's letter lay unopened on the nightstand. So-yeon was afraid to open it. Afraid to read the words that would change her life forever. But when the clock struck midnight and the house finally fell silent, she couldn't resist. With trembling fingers, she unsealed the envelope and unfolded the sheet of paper covered in that familiar, careful handwriting. My dear So-yeon, if you are reading this letter, it means I am no longer in this world. You are probably shocked. You probably don't understand why I did all this. Allow me to explain. I lived a long life. Built an empire, earned billions, raised 2 sons. But do you know what I realized in the end? That all these years I was surrounded by people who saw only money when they looked at me. My sons awaited my death as if it were a holiday. My daughters-in-law pretended to respect me as long as I paid for their whims. My friends, the same business partners, ready to cut each other's throats for profit. And only you, a simple maid whom everyone despised, treated me as a human being. You brought me tea without being asked, when you saw I was tired. You adjusted my pillows, caring for my comfort. You smiled at me in the mornings, sincerely, not for money. And when you sang, thinking no one could hear. I realized that in this house there lived a person with a real soul. 3 weeks ago, I heard your voice for the first time. You sang an old song, and in it there was such purity, such pain and hope at once, that it took my breath away. I called my assistant and learned everything about you. It turned out you once dreamed of becoming a singer, but after your mother's death you had to leave school and work to pay off her medical debts. And then I made my decision. I had little time left, but I could still do something right before I died. I could give a chance to someone who truly deserves it. A year ago, I secretly contacted the organizers of the singing competition The Voice of Korea. I paid for your participation, completed all the documents. You are registered for the audition, which will take place a month after my death, on October 15th. They are expecting you. You have a chance to show the world your talent. I didn't just leave you money, So-yeon. I left you freedom. Freedom to be yourself, to follow your dream, not to depend on the malice and envy of others. Treasure is just a pretext, a way to legally protect you from my greedy family. As long as the cat lives, no one can take away your inheritance. Use this money to pursue your dream. Sing. Live. Be happy. You deserve more than a life in the shadows, more than mockery and contempt. And do not be afraid. I have made sure my family cannot harm you. The notary has all the necessary documents and proof of your innocence. You did nothing wrong. You were simply yourself, kind, honest, talented. Thank you for letting me see real humanity in the last years of my life. Live and do not look back. With respect and gratitude, Park Jong-hoon P.S. In my office, in the bottom drawer of the desk, you will find something else. Open it when you are ready. So-yeon didn't notice her tears running down her cheeks. She read the letter 3 times, unable to believe it. October 15th. Just 3 weeks away. He had signed her up for the contest. A year ago. When he was still alive and well. All this time he knew. He had planned. He had cared for her when she didn't even suspect it. The next morning, chaos reigned in the mansion. The family was packing, and it was not a sight for the faint-hearted. Mira rushed through the rooms, trying to shove as many expensive items as possible into suitcases, until the notary stopped her. Only personal belongings and clothing, Mrs. Hong. Everything else is the property of Miss Min. Those are my jewelry. The daughter-in-law screamed, clutching a jewelry box. These are pieces purchased with Mr. Park's money, the notary replied calmly. They remain in the house. You may only take what belonged to you before the marriage. Mira, sobbing, threw the box to the floor. Diamonds and pearls scattered across the marble. So-yeon watched all of this from the corridor, still unable to believe it was real. Treasure rubbed against her legs, purring. The cat didn't understand that all the commotion revolved around her. By evening, the mansion was finally empty. Jong-sik and his wife left last, without a word, not even glancing at So-yeon. Young-ho stopped at the doorway and hissed through his teeth, "This isn't over. You'll regret this. Threats are recorded on security cameras, Mr. Park," the notary warned. "I suggest you leave before things get worse." Once the gates closed behind the last car, So-yeon was alone in the enormous mansion. The notary was about to leave, but before doing so, he handed her a folder with documents. "Here's all the information about accounts, real estate, and shares. I've scheduled a meeting with a financial consultant the day after tomorrow. He will help you understand everything. I'm also leaving you contacts for a security company. Considering the behavior of the Park family, I recommend hiring protection." "Security?" So-yeon asked fearfully. "You think they could?" "I think 50 billion won is enough motivation for any action," the notary replied seriously. "Be careful, Miss Min. And if anything happens, call me immediately." Alone, So-yeon slowly climbed the stairs to the second floor. Her feet took her to the late master's office. She pushed open the door and entered. The room was filled with books, smelled of leather and fine tobacco. A massive desk stood by the window. So-yeon approached it and opened the bottom drawer, as the letter had instructed. Inside were several items: an old photograph of a young Park Jong-hoon embracing a beautiful woman in a white dress, a leather-bound notebook, and another envelope labeled "Open before the contest." So-yeon took the notebook and opened the first page. It was a diary. The master had kept a diary. August 15th. Today I hired a new maid. Min So-yeon, 20 years old, a modest girl with sad eyes. Mira is unhappy, says a maid should be older and more experienced. But something about this girl made me give her a chance. Perhaps she reminded me of my late wife in her youth, same shyness, same inner strength. So-yeon flipped through a few pages at random. February 3rd. So-Yun broke an antique vase today. Mira made a scene, almost brought her to tears. The girl offered to repay the cost of the vase from her salary, 20,000 won a month until the debt is cleared. I told the notary to return the money to her secretly. The vase cost 500,000, but she must not know. Let her think she paid it off. Tears welled up again. So all these years. June 12th. Learned today why So-Yun came to work as a maid. Her mother died of cancer 2 years ago, leaving 7 million won in medical debts. The girl left university, gave up her dream of becoming a singer to pay off the debt. She is 23 and has already buried all her hopes. I instructed the notary to pay off her debts anonymously. Let her never know. So-Yun's hands trembled. Page after page, she read the entries, and with each line, something warm and painful ignited in her chest. The master had watched her all these years. Protected her, helped her, cared for her, and she hadn't even suspected it. The last entry was dated a month ago, September 20th. The doctors say I have no more than a month left. Strange, but I am not afraid of death. I have done all I could. The will is ready. The notary has received instructions. So-Yun will be protected from my greedy family. Tonight I heard her sing. God, what a voice! So pure, so full of life. I cried listening. Cried for the first time in 20 years. She deserves more. She deserves everything I could not give my family: love, respect, support. Let my money serve a good purpose at least once in life. I have little time left, but I will die peacefully, knowing I helped at least one person gain freedom. So-Yun closed the diary and pressed it to her chest, sobbing. She cried for everything at once, for the kind old man who had died alone, for the years spent in humiliation for the newfound freedom, which scared as much as it delighted, for the impossibility of thanking the person who changed her life. Treasure jumped onto the desk and rubbed her face against So-Yun's hand, as if comforting her. So-Yun stroked the cat's snow-white fur and whispered, I won't let him down. I promise. I'll make him proud of me. The next 2 weeks passed in a whirlwind. The financial consultant, appointed by the notary, was a stern middle-aged man named Cho Soo-Hyun. He spent a whole day explaining to So-Yun what she now owned. It turned out that 50 billion was not just a number. It meant 3 skyscrapers in downtown Seoul, generating 2 billion won in annual rental income. Electronics factories in Busan. Shares in 10 of Korea's largest companies. Villas on Jeju Island, rented to tourists. Antique paintings and sculptures, jewelry, collections of rare books. You understand that from now on you are one of the wealthiest women in the country? Soo-Hyun asked, studying her reaction. So-Yun nodded, feeling like a character in someone else's life. And you understand this will attract attention? The press, business partners, scammers, envious people. I want to keep it secret as long as possible, she said firmly. At least until the contest is over. Soo-Hyun raised an eyebrow. The contest? Then she told him about the voice of Korea, about the dream she had buried many years ago, about the last wish of the man who gave her a second chance. I understand, Soo-Hyun nodded. Then I will arrange everything so that your name doesn't appear in any documents. I will create a trust where you are listed as the manager, not the owner. This will give you time and anonymity. The security company sent 2 bodyguards, silent professionals who now monitored the mansion gates around the clock. So-Yun felt uneasy knowing she was being watched, but after someone attempted to enter the property at night, she was grateful for their presence. The cameras had caught Young-ho attempting to climb over the fence. The bodyguards called the police, and he spent the night at the station. The next day, the notary received an official warning from the authorities: one more attempt like that, and the young man would face real jail time. But the most important thing was something else. October 15th was approaching, and So-Yun had to prepare. She hadn't sung in over 5 years. Years of working as a maid, constant fear, and stress had taken their toll. Her voice was constrained, her breathing weak. She needed a teacher, urgently. Soo Hyun recommended the best vocal coach in Seoul, Professor Yoon Min Ji, who had worked with the country's most famous singers. A lesson with her cost $1 million per hour, but now money was no longer a problem. Min Ji turned out to be a woman of about 60, with gray hair tied back in a ponytail and a sharp, penetrating gaze. She met So-yeon in her studio, a spacious room with a piano and soundproofing on the walls. "Sing me something," she said without preamble. So-yeon chose an old ballad, the same one she had sung when the master had listened. Her voice trembled, breaking on the high notes, but she sang, pouring into each word everything that had built up over the years: pain, hope, gratitude. When the last note faded, Min Ji was silent for several seconds. Then she slowly nodded. "You have a gift. A real one. But you haven't used it for a long time, have you?" 5 years. 5 years. The professor shook her head. "A crime. All right, we have 3 weeks until the competition. We will work every day, 6 hours a day. It will be hard. Painful. Your vocal cords aren't used to this workload. But if you are ready, we will do everything we can." "I'm ready," So-yeon replied without hesitation. And the work began. Min Ji proved to be a demanding, sometimes harsh teacher. She made So-yeon sing for hours at a time, correcting every mistake, every imprecise note. "Breathe deeper. Open your mouth. You're singing like a frightened mouse. That note is off. Again. Again. Don't stop until it's right. You have emotion in your voice, but you're afraid to show it. Stop hiding. Sing as if it's the last time you'll ever sing." After the first lesson, So-yeon returned home and collapsed onto her bed, unable to move. Her throat ached, her head throbbed. But the next morning, she went to class again. By the end of the first week, her voice had strengthened. So-yeon felt control returning, notes becoming cleaner and more confident. Min Ji still criticized every little detail, but sometimes, when she thought her student didn't notice, a satisfied smile would flicker across her face. "You can win," she said at the end of the second week. "But you need the right song. What are you going to sing at the competition?" So-yeon took out the envelope she had found in the master's office, the one she was instructed to open before the contest. Inside was a sheet of music and a short note. "This song was written by my late wife. She dreamed of being a composer, but fate had other plans. Before she died, she said, one day someone will sing this so the whole world can hear it. I believe that person is you. The title of the song is Light in the Darkness. Sing it for both of us." Min Ji steadied the sheet music, humming the melody under her breath. Her eyes widened. This is incredible. Who wrote this composition?" "Mr. Park's wife. She passed away 20 years ago." "This song is a masterpiece," the professor whispered. "An absolute masterpiece. If you sing it well, you will have no competitors." They began working on Light in the Darkness. The song was challenging, full of transitions, high notes requiring perfect breath control. But each day, So-yeon performed it better and better. "Remember what you felt when you were at your lowest," Min Ji said. "Remember the humiliation, the pain, the despair. And now remember the moment you learned about the will. When you realized you had a chance. Put all of that into the song. Show people the path from darkness to light." And So-yeon sang. She sang until she cried herself. She sang so that the studio fell into a ringing silence after the final note. 3 days before the competition, Min Ji announced, "You're ready. I've done everything I could. The rest depends only on you." That same evening, when So-yeon returned to the mansion, Soo Hyun met her with an unusual expression. "You've received an invitation," he said, handing her an envelope. Inside was a card printed on fine paper. The organizers of The Voice of Korea invited her to the audition. Date, October 18th, time, 10 in the morning. That's in 3 days, So-hyun whispered. 3 days before your life changes forever, Soo-hyun nodded. Are you ready? She looked at Treasure, peacefully sleeping on the sofa. At the portrait of Park Jong-hoon hanging on the wall. At the luxurious mansion around her, which was now her home. Ready, she said firmly. The morning of October 18th was clear and warm. So-hyun woke 2 hours before dawn, unable to sleep from excitement and fear at the same time. She took a shower, carefully chose her outfit, a simple black dress, modest but elegant. Min-ji had advised not to draw attention with her appearance, let only the voice speak. Makeup was minimal, a little foundation, light natural toned lipstick. Her hair was tied in a simple ponytail. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, So-hyun barely recognized herself. There was no trace of the timid maid she had been just a month ago. Before her stood a young woman with a determined gaze, ready to fight for her dream. Soo-hyun insisted she go to the contest in his car with a driver, a discreet black Hyundai, not the luxurious Mercedes that now belonged to her. Anonymity was crucial. The TV studio of The Voice of Korea was located in Yeongdeungpo. A huge modern building of glass and concrete, where dozens of young people, all audition participants, were gathered at the entrance. So-hyun got out of the car and blended into the crowd. Inside, organizers greeted them. A young girl with a tablet and a tired expression checked names and handed out numbers. So-hyun received number 47. A total of 120 people had signed up for the audition. You'll perform in about 3 hours, the girl explained. Wait in the common room. When your number is called, you'll go into the studio. The waiting room was a huge space with rows of plastic chairs. Already, more than 50 participants had gathered, some nervously flipping through sheet music, others warming up in a corner, and some just staring at their phones. So-hyun found a free seat by the window and sat down, trying to calm her wildly beating heart. Next to her settled a girl of about 25, wearing a bright pink outfit, her hair styled in an elaborate fashion. First time participating? She asked cheerfully. Yes. Me too. Well, I lied, she laughed. This is my 3rd year in a row. Twice I was cut at the auditions, but this year I'm sure I'll pass. I learned an Adele song, you know, Someone Like You. Everyone says I sound almost like the original. So-hyun smiled politely, unsure how to respond. The girl continued talking, jumping from topic to topic, clearly nervous. So-hyun listened half-heartedly, focusing on her own thoughts. Time dragged torturously slowly. Participants were called one by one, and after each performance, discussion erupted in the room. Did you see her? She definitely passed. That guy in the striped shirt lasted only a minute. They must have rejected him immediately. They say Choi Min-jun himself is on the jury this year. A true legend. So-hyun shivered at the mention of the name. Choi Min-jun. The legendary producer who had launched the careers of dozens of Korea's most famous singers. A man known for his cruelty and perfectionism. They said he could crush a contestant with a single phrase. But if he liked someone, he could turn an unknown singer into a star in months. Number 47. Min So-hyun. The organizer's voice cut through the chatter. So-hyun jumped to her feet, her knees nearly giving out. The girl in pink patted her shoulder. Good luck. Show them what you've got. The corridor seemed endless. So-hyun followed the organizer, trying to breathe steadily, recalling Min-ji's instructions. Calm. Control your breathing. And above all, feel every word. The studio doors swung open, and she stepped inside. The room was bathed in bright spotlight. In the center stood a lone chair and a microphone. Opposite, at a wide table, sat the jury, 3 people. So-hyun recognized them all. On the left, Yoon Hwa-yeon, a famous singer from the 1980s, now a conservatory professor. In the center, Park Jae-bum, the channel's chief music director. And on the right, Choi Min-jun. Even from 10 meters away, his presence was palpable. A man of about 35, in a sharp black suit, dark hair slicked back. His face was handsome but cold, as if carved from marble. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his gaze one of total disinterest. Min So-yeon, Jae-bum read from a sheet. 25 years old, no professional experience. What will you perform? Her voice caught in her throat. So-yeon cleared it, the song Light in the Darkness. I don't know that one, Won frowned. Who is the author? The late Mrs. Park Sun-hee. This song has never been performed publicly. Min-jun shifted, showing the first sign of interest. He straightened, studying her closely. Where did you get the sheet music? It's personal. So-yeon clenched her hands, feeling them tremble. May I start? Jae-bum nodded, making a note on his form. So-yeon closed her eyes, recalling her last lesson with Min-ji. Recalling the master's letter. Recalling all the years of pain and humiliation. Everything she had endured to be here. And she sang. The first notes trembled, from excitement, from fear. But then something inside her opened, and the voice poured freely, filling the studio. The song told of a person who had lost everything. Of darkness surrounding them from all sides. Of moments when one wants to give up, to let go, to stop fighting. But in the darkest hour, a tiny spark of hope appears. And for that spark, it is worth continuing. So-yeon sang, and before her closed eyes, images flashed, her mother in a hospital bed, her own hands cleaning strangers' floors, the faces of people laughing at her. And then, the kind face of Park Jang-hoon, his last smile, the letter written by the trembling hand of a dying man. The final note lingered, fading into absolute silence. So-yeon opened her eyes. She saw Won crying openly, not hiding her tears. Jae-bum sat with a hand over his mouth, his eyes glistening. And Min-jun. Min-jun looked at her as if seeing her for the first time in his life. In his gaze was something So-yeon could not identify, shock? Admiration? Who are you? He asked quietly. Excuse me? Who are you? He stood, slowly circling the table and approaching her, to sing like that. Where does so much pain come from? So much. Life? So-yeon didn't know what to say. In 20 years in this industry, Min-jun stopped a meter away from her. I've heard thousands of voices. Good, bad, mediocre. But this. He shook his head. This I have never heard before. It's unanimous, Jae-bum spoke. You advance to the next round. Moreover, we want you to perform this same song live. In the first episode, in 2 weeks. What? Congratulations, Min So-yeon, Won smiled through her tears. You have just changed your life. The following days passed in a whirlwind. The producers of The Voice of Korea contacted So-yeon the day after the audition. They wanted to do interviews, film promotional videos, discuss performance details. She complied with all requests but tried to remain as discreet as possible about her private life. When asked, "What is your occupation?" she answered vaguely, "I worked as a maid in a private house." Technically, this was true. Soo-hyun handled all legal matters, ensuring no information about the inheritance leaked to the press. Everything stayed secret, partly because the Park family, spiteful as they were, did not want to air dirty laundry. A scandal about the will could have embarrassed them more than losing the money itself. But Young-ho did not calm down. He called So-yeon every day, leaving threatening messages. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. I will find a way to take what belongs to me by right. After the 5th such call, Soo-hyun filed a restraining order. Young-ho was forbidden from approaching So-yeon within 50 meters under threat of arrest. Mira went a different route. She hired a private detective, trying to dig up dirt on So-yeon. The detective spent a whole week investigating her past and found nothing, no scandals, no debts, no dark marks. The scariest discovery was 3-year-old unpaid utility bills totaling 300,000 won. Meanwhile, preparations for the live broadcast were in full swing. Min-ji continued working with So-yeon, now not only refining her vocal technique but also preparing her for performing on camera. Remember, there will be 300 spectators in the studio plus cameras, the professor instructed. You must not sing for them, you must sing for yourself. Imagine you are alone in the room, and this is your last song. And what if I get scared? What if my voice breaks? Then you'll remember everything you've been through. And you'll realize that no cameras are scarier than what you've already survived. 3 days before the broadcast, So-yeon received an unexpected call. An unknown number. Min So-yeon? A male voice, pleasant, with a slight rasp. Yes. This is Choi Min-jun. I hope you remember me. Her heart skipped a beat. How could she forget? Of course I remember, Mr. Choi. I need to meet with you. Talk about your performance. Tomorrow, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, at Café Dal in Sancheongdong. Can you make it? So-yeon hesitated for only a second. I can. The next day, she arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. Dal was a small, cozy place, hidden in an alley between traditional hammocks. Inside, it was quiet, with soft jazz playing. Min-jun was already waiting at a window table. In casual clothes, dark jeans and a gray sweater, he looked younger and somehow more approachable. Not as intimidatingly perfect as in the studio. Sit, he stood, letting her take the seat. What would you like to drink? Just green tea, thank you. When the waiter brought her tea and walked away, Min-jun studied her silently. So-yeon grew nervous under his attentive gaze. I've reviewed your dossier, he finally said. Or rather, what little there is. There's almost no information. It's as if you appeared from nowhere. I just have a boring life, she replied cautiously. People with boring lives don't sing like you do. A pause hung between them. So-yeon sipped her tea, burning her tongue slightly. I don't want to pressure you, Min-jun leaned back. Everyone has the right to secrets. But as your future producer, and I intend to be that if you agree, I need to know who I'm working with. Future producer? You haven't performed on air yet, but I already know, you will win. This competition, the entire season. The question isn't whether you'll win. The question is, what happens after? After? Your career. Albums. Concerts. I want to work with you, So-yeon. I want to make you a star. Not an ordinary star, a true legend. You have everything it takes. Her head spun. Just a month ago, she had been mopping floors in someone else's house. Now, a legendary producer was offering her a star-studded future. But first I need to understand who you are, Min-jun continued. Where this song comes from. Why you've never performed publicly before. Where you learned to convey emotion with such intensity. So-yeon looked out the window, watching passers-by. Could she tell him the truth? Could she trust him? I worked as a maid, she said softly. For 5 years. In a wealthy family. I wasn't treated very well there. Min-jun listened without interrupting. The head of the house was kind. The only person who treated me like a human being. He died a month ago. And before he passed, he left me an opportunity. The chance to fulfill the dream I had buried many years ago. The song, Min-jun nodded understandingly. Written by his wife. Yes. He wanted me to sing it. For the world to hear. And you are fulfilling his last wish. Not just his. My own too. Min Jun reached across the table and covered her hand with his. The touch was warm, unexpectedly gentle. Then let's do this right, he said. Let's show the world something unforgettable. So-yeon looked at their joined hands and felt something tighten inside her, not fear, but something else. Something new and frightening. Why do you want to help me? She asked. You don't even know me. Because after 20 years in this industry, I forgot how to feel, Min Jun replied. Everything became work, numbers, ratings. Then I heard you sing. And for the first time in many years, I got goosebumps. You brought back what I thought I had lost forever, the ability to be amazed. He withdrew his hand, and So-yeon felt a strange emptiness. Prepare for the broadcast, Min Jun said, standing up. After your performance, we'll meet again. And we'll talk about the future. He paid and left, leaving her alone with a cup of cooling tea and thoughts swirling like a disturbed swarm. That evening, Soo-hyun called with alarming news. We have a problem. The Park family hired journalists. They're digging into the will. One reporter already tried to break onto the estate. What should we do? Hold tight. 3 more days until the broadcast. After your performance, the truth will come out anyway, too many people know. But if you perform before the scandal breaks, you'll have an advantage. What kind of advantage? People will hear your story from you. Not from dirty gossip in the tabloids. 3 days to the broadcast. 72 hours. So-yeon spent them in constant rehearsal. Min-ji pushed her to the point where she could sing light in the darkness even in her sleep. Every note was perfect, every transition measured to the millimeter. You're ready, the professor said on the last night before the broadcast. Now go and show them everything you've got. On the morning of November 1st, So-yeon woke at 5 a.m. Filming started at 8, but she couldn't sleep. Butterflies fluttered in her stomach, her hands shook. She showered, tried to eat breakfast, a bite wouldn't go down. She dressed in the gown Min-ji had helped her choose, simple, deep emerald, highlighting her figure without being flashy. Her hair fell in soft waves. The car arrived at 7. On the way to the studio, So-yeon watched the waking city through the window, thinking that these were the last minutes of her old life. After today's performance, everything would change. For better or worse, only time would tell. At the studio entrance, the producer's assistant greeted her, a young man with an earpiece and a tablet in hand. Min So-yeon? Perfect, you're on time. Let's go, I'll show you the dressing room. The next hour passed in preparation. Makeup artist, stylist, sound engineer checking microphones. So-yeon sat in the chair, letting them work, feeling like a puppet. 5 minutes to live broadcast. The assistant director's voice called out. They led her to the backstage area. Through a thin curtain, she could see the studio, a huge hall filled with spectators. The first participant was already performing, a nervous young man, about 20, singing a popular ballad rock song. Not bad, but ordinary. Nothing special. The jury sat in their places. So-yeon saw Min Jun. He was writing something in his notebook, focused. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up at the curtain and gave a faint smile. Next up, Min So-yeon, announced the host. This was it. The moment of truth. So-yeon stepped onto the stage. The spotlight hit her eyes, blinding her for a moment. The audience erupted in applause, the usual greeting for each contestant. So-yeon walked slowly to the center, where the microphone stood. Her legs shook, but she forced herself to stand tall, head held high. The applause died down. A tense silence filled the hall. Good evening, the host's voice came through the speakers. Please introduce yourself. So-yeon took the microphone with trembling hands. My name is Min So-yeon. I am 25 years old. Tell us a little about yourself. Where do you work? What do you do? I. Until recently, I worked in a private household. I helped with chores. A quiet chuckle rippled through the audience. A maid at a singing competition, amusing. And how did you decide to try singing? The host continued. It wasn't my idea, So-yeon took a deep breath. The person I worked for heard me sing. And before he passed away, he asked me not to bury my talent. He asked me to give myself a chance. The atmosphere in the hall shifted. People stopped laughing and listened. I am here to fulfill his last wish, So-yeon concluded. And my own dream. Well, the host nodded, we all want to hear. What will you perform? The song Light in the Darkness. The author is the late Mrs. Park Sun-hee. A hush fell over the audience again. In the jury, Min-jun leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes fixed on her. The music began. A soft piano introduction, sad and gentle at the same time. So-yeon closed her eyes and began to sing. The first verse was about loss. About a world crumbling, about everything that once seemed important disappearing. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but every word was filled with such pain that the audience froze, afraid to move. The second verse, about darkness. About the terror of moving forward when you cannot see the path. When every step might be the last. Her voice grew stronger, carrying despair, a cry from the soul. Then came the chorus. Powerful, full of hope. About the tiny light that exists even in the deepest darkness. And that it is worth fighting for that light. As So-yeon sang, images flashed before her closed eyes, her mother on her deathbed mirror screaming at her young host, staring with disdain, the kind eyes of Park Jong-hoon, treasure purring on her lap, Min-jun, reaching out to her across the cafe table. The final verse was about victory. About darkness retreating, light shining brighter. About the struggle not being in vain. The final note stretched, high and clear, filling every corner of the hall. Then it faded into silence. So-yeon opened her eyes. And saw that the entire hall had risen. All 300 people. The applause was deafening, turning into a standing ovation. People cheered, whistled, wiped away tears. Among the jury, Hwa-yeon openly cried, unashamed in front of the cameras. Jae-bum clapped, smiling from ear to ear. And Min-jun. Min-jun sat still, staring at her as if seeing something unbelievable. A single tear gleamed on his cheek. The applause lasted a minute, 2, 3. The host tried to calm the audience, but they refused to stop. Finally, the noise subsided enough to speak. Min So-yeon, Hwa-yeon took the microphone, her voice trembling. In 30 years of judging various competitions, I've heard thousands of performances. Good, mediocre, poor. But nothing. Nothing like this. You didn't just sing. You told a story. Your story. And everyone in this hall felt it in their hearts. I agree, Jae-bum added. It was. I have no words. It was perfection. All eyes turned to Min-jun. He remained silent, and the silence stretched. Finally, he stood, walked around the jury table, and slowly approached the stage. The hall froze. It was unheard of, a jury member was not supposed to leave their seat during a broadcast. Min-jun stepped onto the stage and stopped before So-yeon. He looked into her eyes as if they were the only people in the universe. In 20 years of work, he said quietly, and the microphones amplified his voice for the entire hall, I've created careers for many singers. I know how to make a person a star. I know all the formulas, all the tricks, all the techniques. But what you just did, it cannot be created. It cannot be taught. It's a gift. A real, rare gift. He paused, and the audience could hear a pin drop. Normally, I wait until the end of a competition before making offers, Min-jun continued. But I'm breaking all the rules. Min So-yeon, I want to work with you. I want to make you not just a star, I want the whole world to hear your voice. Say yes. Right now, in front of everyone. The hall erupted in cheers and applause. Cameras were pointed at So-yeon, capturing every emotion on her face. She looked at Min-jun, this man who believed in her more than she believed in herself. And suddenly she realized that what she felt looking at him was not just gratitude. It was something more. Something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Yes, she whispered. What? Min-jun smiled. I didn't hear. Yes. She repeated louder, and a smile blossomed across her face for the first time in many years. Yes, I agree. The hall exploded into an ovation. Min-jun extended his hand, and she placed hers in his. He raised their joined hands, like champions after a battle. At that moment, So-yeon realized her life had changed forever. Exiting the studio turned into a nightmare. Journalists swarmed the entrance, dozens of cameras, microphones, flashes. The broadcast had just ended, and videos of So-yeon's performance were already spreading online, gathering millions of views. Min So-yeon, tell us about yourself. Is it true you worked as a maid? What is your relationship with Choi Min-jun? Studio security barely held back the crowd. Min-jun held So-yeon's hand firmly, guiding her to the car. Don't answer anything, he whispered. Just go. They reached the black SUV and slammed the door, cutting off the noise outside. The driver immediately started moving. My God, So-yeon leaned back in her seat, heart racing. That was madness, Min-jun finished. And it's just the beginning. By tomorrow morning, you will wake up famous. I'm not ready for this. No one ever is, he turned to her. But you'll manage. And I'll help. So-yeon's phone was exploding with calls and messages. Soo-hyun sent urgent updates. Min-ji sent an excited voice message. Even numbers of strangers, somehow journalists had gotten hold of her contacts. And among all this chaos, one message froze her blood. You think you've won? Let's see what people say when they learn the truth about how you got the old man's money. Young-ho. So-yeon showed the message to Min-jun. He frowned. Who is this? The son of the man I worked for. The one who left me the inheritance. Is he threatening you? He didn't accept his father's decision. He thinks I tricked the old man. Min-jun dialed a number on his phone. Lim, I need the best defamation lawyer. Immediately. Yes, right now. Good, I'll wait. He turned to So-yeon. We'll sue him for threats and defamation. We'll get a restraining order. He won't be able to come near you. But if he tells the press, let him, Min-jun said firmly. You have the will. You have all the legal documents. You did nothing illegal. And if he tries to slander you, we'll sue him to the last thread. The confidence in his voice calmed her. So-yeon nodded, feeling the tension slowly release. The car stopped at the mansion. Min-jun stepped out with her. I'll see you to the door, he said, noticing her surprised look. Better safe than sorry after the threats. They walked through the gates, past the guards. Treasure met them at the door, loudly meowing, demanding her dinner. So, here she is, Min-jun crouched, extending his hand. A cat worth 50 billion won. Treasure sniffed his fingers and graciously allowed herself to be petted. She likes you, So-yeon smiled. She usually doesn't approach strangers. I have a talent for charming capricious creatures, he stood, looking into her eyes. Always have. A tense pause hung between them. So-yeon felt her pulse quicken. Min-jun was standing so close that she could see golden sparks in his dark eyes. I have to go, he said softly, but didn't move. Tomorrow we have an important meeting with representatives from a record label. They want to offer you a contract. So soon? When a talent like yours appears, everyone wants a piece first. And which studio should I trust? The one I work with, he smiled. I won't let anyone exploit you. I promise. He leaned in and kissed her on the cheek, light, almost weightless. But the touch burned, like fire. Good night, So-yeon, Min Jun whispered and left, leaving her standing in the foyer with burning cheeks and a wildly beating heart. That night brought no peace. So-yeon couldn't sleep, replaying the events of the day in her mind, the performance, the ovation, Min Jun's offer broadcast live to the whole country. The kiss on her cheek, still tingling on her skin. She picked up her phone and opened the news. The front pages of all the major portals were filled with headlines. Unknown singer conquers the jury of The Voice of Korea. Choi Min-jun breaks all rules for a new star. Who is Min So-yeon? Maid turned sensation. The comments section erupted. Some were in awe, some envious, some accusing her of scheming. Then, around 3 a.m., a tabloid article appeared, Scandal. The Voice of Korea's singer inherits 50 billion won, deceiving dying old man. So-yeon froze reading the text. Jung-ho had given an interview to the journalists, telling his version of the story. According to him, she had deliberately ingratiated herself with his sick father, exploiting his weakness and loneliness, manipulating him to get the inheritance. My father was not himself in the last months of his life, the article quoted Jung-ho. He was on strong painkillers that affected his mind. This woman took advantage of his condition. She stole what rightfully belonged to our family. The article went on with details about how So-yeon supposedly flirted with the master, wore revealing clothes, and lingered in his room at night. Every word was a lie. Every word hurt like a knife. Her hands shook so violently that the phone slipped from her grip and fell onto the bed. So-yeon wrapped her arms around herself, nausea rising. What now? Everyone will read this. Everyone will believe it. Her career will be over before it even starts. The phone rang, making her jump. Min Jun. Have you seen the article? His voice was sharp. Yes. Don't believe a single word. I've already contacted our lawyers. By morning, we'll file a defamation suit for 500 million won and demand an official retraction. But people have already read it. They'll believe. Not all of them, Min Jun said firmly. Trust me. Tomorrow morning I'll organize a press conference. You will tell the truth. The whole truth. You have the will, the master's journals, the notary's testimony. Documents don't lie, So-yeon. And this insignificant son is just trying to take revenge. I'm scared. A pause. Then his voice softened. I'll be there. Every step. I promise. Try to sleep. Morning will be tough. You need your strength. Sleep didn't come. So-yeon spent the rest of the night sitting with Treasure on her lap, stroking the snowy fur, trying to calm herself. At dawn, Soo-hyun arrived with a folder of documents. We're ready for war, he said. I have all the evidence of your innocence. Medical certificate proving Mr. Park was of sound mind. Video of the will being signed. Testimony from the notary. Statements showing you never received any money from him before his death. And most importantly, the diary. The diary? So-yeon asked. You've read it. It contains everything, how he observed you, admired your talent, your pure heart, how he wanted to help. If we release these entries, no one will believe his son's stories. The press conference was scheduled for noon. The hall at Hotel Shiloh was packed with journalists, all major publications, TV channels, and online portals. Cameras, microphones, flashes. So-yeon sat at the long table between Min Jun and Soo-hyun. The documents lay before her. Her hands rested on her lap, clenched so tightly her nails dug into her palms. Let's begin, Soo-hyun announced. This morning a defamatory article about my client, Ms. Min So-yeon, appeared in the press. We are here to refute these lies and present the facts. He methodically displayed the documents, explaining each one. The will, signed by Park Jang-hoon 2 months before his death. The medical certificate confirming full legal capacity. Video showing the master signing the papers himself, clearly saying, "This is my will, and I am of sound mind." And now, Soo-hyun pulled out the leather-bound diary. Let me read a few entries from Mr. Park's personal journal. He read aloud about how the master admired So-yeon's kindness, her talent, her pure soul. How he wanted to give her a chance at a better life. How she was the only person in the house who treated him as a human being. The room fell into absolute silence. Journalists recorded every word. Mr. Park Jang-hoon claimed that his son says the father was not in his right mind, Soo-hyun continued. But these entries span 5 years. They are detailed, logical, consistent. These are not the words of a sick man. This is the testimony of a kind, sane man who wanted to help a girl who deserved his respect. He nodded at So-yeon. It was her turn to speak. She stood and approached the microphones. Her gaze swept across the sea of faces and cameras, finding Min-jun, who gave her an encouraging nod. I did not intend to tell this story, So-yeon began, her voice trembling. I wanted to keep it private. But after today's accusations, I understand, I can remain silent no longer. She told everything. The 5 years working as a maid. The constant humiliation from the Park family. How the master was the only person who saw her as human. How he heard her sing and decided to give her a chance. I didn't ask him to do this, So-yeon's voice strengthened. I didn't even know about his plans until his death. When the will was read, I was as shocked as his family. But he left me a letter. A letter asking me not to bury my talent. Asking me to live, to dream, to be happy. She pulled the letter from her pocket, the very one written by the trembling hand of the dying man. I am not here because I stole someone's inheritance, So-yeon said, looking directly into the cameras. I am here because a kind man believed in me when no one else did. And I will not let his memory be tarnished by the lies of his own son. She sat down. Questions erupted in the room, but Soo-hyun raised his hand. No questions. We have presented all the facts. Tomorrow we will file a defamation lawsuit against Mr. Park Young-ho and the publication that printed the false article. We demand 500 million won in damages and a public apology. That is all. They left amid the clatter of cameras and a storm of questions. In the car, So-yeon finally allowed herself to relax, leaning back in her seat. You were magnificent, said Min-jun, taking her hand. Sincere, powerful, convincing. Do you think it will help? I know it will. By evening, public opinion will have turned completely. You'll see. He was right. By evening, the internet exploded with new headlines, the truth about the scandalous heiress, a story of kindness and deceit. Billionaire's son tried to slander the girl his father wanted to help. Min So-yeon. From maid to star, the real Cinderella story. In the comments, waves of support drowned out the rare skeptics. People wept reading Park Jang-hoon's letter. They admired So-yeon's courage. They demanded Young-ho be punished for defamation. The video of her press conference reached 5 million views in just 3 hours. The next day, news arrived that nearly made So-yeon faint. 3 of Korea's largest record labels had sent official offers of collaboration. The contract numbers were dizzying, billions of won, royalties, world tours. What should I do? She asked Min-jun in confusion when he arrived to discuss the offers. Choose the studio where I will be your producer, he smiled. And where you will have creative freedom. Money isn't the point. The point is that you can sing what you feel. Create music that changes people, as your performance changed me. Changed you? He nodded, growing serious. I've spent 20 years in this industry like a machine. Creating stars by formula, by routine. Everything predictable, boring. Then I heard you sing. And I remembered why I fell in love with music in the first place. Remembered that it's supposed to touch the soul, not just entertain. He took her hands in his. So Yun, I don't just want to be your producer. I want to be there for you. Always. In everything. Her heart skipped a beat. She looked into his eyes and saw the same thing she felt, the pull, the connection that had begun at their first meeting. But we barely know each other, she whispered. I know what matters, Min-jun said softly. I know you're honest, talented, strong. I know that when you sing, my heart stops. I know I don't want to imagine my life without you. Min-jun. I'm not asking for an answer right now. He raised her hand and kissed her fingers. Just know I'm here. And I will be, as long as it takes. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. So-yeon signed a contract with Starship Entertainment, one of the biggest studios in the country. Min-jun truly became her producer, and they began working on her debut album. Meanwhile, The Voice of Korea continued. So-yeon advanced to the second round, then the third. Every performance became an event, the show's ratings soared to record highs. People awaited her stage appearances like a celebration. Her relationship with Min-jun developed slowly but inevitably. They spent days together, working on songs, discussing arrangements, debating details. With each day, So-yeon realized she was falling in love. Falling in love with his perfectionism, which made him record the same phrase 20 times until it was flawless. With his rare smiles that lit up his otherwise cold face. With the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, with such admiration, such tenderness. Young-ho lost the lawsuit. He was ordered to pay damages and issue a public apology. The publication that printed the defamatory article was fined 1 billion won. After that, the Park family disappeared from So-yeon's life. They moved away, keeping their distance, no longer trying to harm her. The day of the Voice of Korea finale arrived. So-yeon reached it undefeated, each time receiving the highest scores from the jury and audience. 3 contestants remained. So-yeon was set to perform last. Backstage buzzed with tension. The first finalist, a talented young man with a rock voice, delivered a powerful performance. The second, a girl with crystal-clear soprano, sang an opera aria, earning a standing ovation. Ready? Min-jun asked, entering So-yeon's dressing room 5 minutes before her stage time. I don't know, she admitted honestly. They were both incredible. But you are better, he crouched before her, taking her hands. Because you don't sing for victory. You sing because you cannot help it. And people feel that. What if I let you down? Impossible, he smiled, leaning in to kiss her. Not on the cheek this time, on the lips. Gentle, slow, stealing her breath. When he pulled back, So-yeon looked at him with wide eyes. For luck, Min-jun whispered. Go and show them what a true star can do. So-yeon stepped onto the stage, still feeling the warmth of his lips. The audience greeted her with applause. Over these weeks she had already won the hearts of millions of viewers. Min So-yeon, the host announced, you chose a completely new song for the finale. Tell us about it. It's a song of gratitude, So-yeon said into the microphone. About people who believe in us when we cannot believe in ourselves. About how one person can change an entire life. It's called Thank You. The music began, soft, touching, a melody she and Min-jun had created together over the past week. So-yeon sang about Park Jong-hoon, his kindness, the last chance he had given her. She sang about Min-ji, who had taught her to unlock her talent. She sang about Min-jun, who had shown her what real support and faith meant. With every note, the audience grew silent. People cried openly, not hiding from cameras. And the jury, Hwayeon and Jae-bum, did not conceal their tears. And Min-jun stood backstage, pressing his hand to his lips, tears streaking down his cheeks. The final note faded. A beat of silence. Then the hall erupted, applause, cheers, whistles. People stood, stomping, chanting her name. The vote results were announced 10 minutes later. So-yeon won by an overwhelming margin, 92% of the viewers' votes. When the host handed her the crystal winner's trophy, So-yeon didn't look at him, the cameras, or the cheering audience. She looked backstage, where Min-jun was standing. And she saw him smile, genuinely, openly, happily. After the ceremony, when everyone had left, they remained alone in the empty studio. They sat on the edge of the stage, legs dangling over the orchestra pit. "You did it," Min-jun said quietly. "We did it," So-yeon corrected him. "Without you, I wouldn't have managed. Without you, I wouldn't have had a reason to try." He wrapped his arms around her shoulders, and she leaned against him, savoring the silence after weeks of chaos. "What now?" she asked. "Now, the album. Concerts. A world tour, if you want. You have an entire career ahead of you. And us?" He turned her face to his, "And we'll be together. If you agree to tolerate a perfectionist workaholic who will make you rewrite songs 20 times. "I agree," she laughed. "If you agree to tolerate a former maid with a 50 billion won Persian cat." "I like treasure," Min-jun smiled. "The cat has good taste, she chose the right owner." He kissed her again, long and deep, and in that kiss was everything: promise, hope, love. 6 months passed. So-yeon's debut album, Light in the Darkness, broke all records in Korean music history. 3 million copies in the first week. 5 platinum certifications. The top prize at the Melon Music Awards. But today wasn't about awards. So-yeon stood in front of the mirror in the fitting room of a luxury bridal salon, examining her reflection. The pure white dress hugged her figure, the long veil fell to the floor. She looked like a fairy tale heroine. "You're beautiful," Min-ji wiped tears, standing beside her. "Absolutely beautiful, my girl." "Don't make me cry," So-yeon pleaded, though tears were already welling up. "The makeup will be ruined." "Let it be," laughed her mentor. "The main thing is for the groom to see how happy you are." The wedding took place in a small church on the outskirts of Seoul, quiet, cozy, with no crowds of journalists or paparazzi. Min-jun insisted on a modest ceremony, only the closest people attending. When So-yeon walked down the aisle to the march, she saw him, standing at the altar in a black suit, holding a bouquet of white roses. His eyes widened as he saw her, and that rare, radiant smile appeared on his face, the one she had been willing to risk everything to see. She had no father to walk her down the aisle, but Soo-hyun took on the honor, offering his arm. They slowly walked down the aisle between rows of guests, Min-ji, colleagues from the studio, a few close friends. And Treasure, perched on the front pew in a specially made pink collar with a bow. Min-jun took So-yeon's hand from Soo-hyun and pressed it to his lips. "You're the most beautiful bride I've ever seen," he whispered. "And you've seen many brides?" she teased. "Only one. And she's the only one that matters." The ceremony was simple and touching. They exchanged vows, rings, and a kiss amid the applause of their guests. Afterward, during the small reception at a nearby restaurant, Min-jun asked for a word. "I want to make a toast," he raised his glass. 6 months ago, I thought I knew everything about music, life, and love. Then I heard a girl sing, and I realized I knew nothing. She taught me to listen with my heart, not my ears. To feel, not just analyze. To love, not just work alongside someone." He turned to So-yeon. "Thank you for agreeing to be my wife. I promise to do everything so that you are happy every single day of our life together. Even if it means not making me rewrite songs 20 times? She smiled. "I can't promise that," Min-jun laughed. "I'm a perfectionist." Everyone laughed, and glasses clinked in a toast. That evening, after the guests left, the newlyweds returned to the mansion, the same place where So-yeon once worked as a maid. Now it was their home. Min June carried her across the threshold, despite her laughing protests. Treasure greeted them with a loud meow, clearly displeased at being left behind. She's jealous, Min June smiled. You'll have to share me with the cat. I think you can handle it, So-yeon hugged him by the neck. You have a talent for charming capricious creatures, remember? I remember, he kissed her. And I thank fate every day for that talent. They went up to the bedroom, the very room where So-yeon once brought tea to the dying master. Now their bed stood there, and their photos adorned the walls. On the nightstand, in a silver frame, was a portrait of Park Jang-hoon. So-yeon approached it, gently running her fingers over the glass. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. For believing in me. For giving me a chance. For seeing in me more than I ever saw in myself. He was a wise man. Min June hugged her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. He recognized a treasure where others only saw a maid. Two treasures, So-yeon corrected, pointing at treasure, curled up at the edge of the bed. One fluffy, one with a voice. Three treasures, Min June whispered, turning her to face him. Because the third treasure is our love. And it's more precious than all the billions in the world. He kissed her, and in that kiss was their entire story, the pain of the past, the joy of the present, hope for the future. The next morning, when they awoke in each other's arms, the first thing So-yeon saw was a ray of sunlight streaming through the curtains. Warm, golden, filling the room with light. A light in the darkness. That was the name of the song with which it all began. She turned to her husband, sleeping beside her, and smiled. Her life had changed beyond recognition, from a maid mocked and overlooked, to a star adored by millions. From a lonely girl with no future, to the beloved wife of a talented producer. All thanks to a kind old man who heard her voice and decided to give her a chance. Thanks to a 50 billion won cat, which became the reason for the most unusual inheritance in history. Thanks to the man who fell in love with her voice, and then with her. Treasure stretched, yawned, and jumped onto the bed, settling between the couple. Min June awoke, sleepily smiling at his wife. Good morning, Mrs. Choi. Good morning, Mr. Choi, So-yeon replied. They lay together, husband, wife, and their air cat, in the mansion where once a young maid had cleaned floors and dreamed of another life. Dreams come true. Sometimes in the most unexpected ways. And Min So-yeon, former maid turned star, knew that better than anyone else.